Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today on Good Mythical Morning. Today we have a special topic that may concern both teenagers and adults. It is sexuality.
We'll be going through two myths, one about each gender, which are obviously related to sexuality. For those of you who haven't seen the show, we'll be using any information available to keep the myth or to prove the myth.
Throughout the week, the audience was able to suggest any myth through social media, and these two were the victors. The first one is the hymen a marker for virginity? Let's get started.
First of all, let's get know a little about the hymen. The hymen is a piece of skin covering the vaginal opening in females. In about the third or fourth month of pregnancy, the hymen in female fetuses begin to form. It remains intact until it's broken by most often sexual intercourse. It can be also broken by activity or insertion of something into the vaginal canal.
The hymen is considered part of the exterior genitalia of the female reproductive system. It is located between the two folds of the vulva. It does not actually cover the whole vaginal pathway, but it may make it very small. As the female grows, the folds of the hymen may open up, stretch, or even tear during activity. Some girls may notice a bit of blood, but this is completely normal.
Some people have questions about parent, male or female. Inserting a finger into a vagina, does that virginize her? If a girl uses a tampon, does that cause her to lose her virginity? If she falls off her bike, might affect the hymen and thus her virginity?
Who loses their virginity to a bicycle?
No.
Well, it depends on how you define virginity and what you see virginity as. So, let's get into what virginity really means.
Virginity is nothing more than not having had sexual intercourse.
The hymen really has nothing to do with a woman's virginity.
Obviously, many women tears hymen when having intercourse for the first time.
But this is only if it hadn't been torn before by any other activity or any other cause that may tear the hymen.
It is rare for this to happen, but it is scientific fact that the hymen can be separated for reasons quite unconnected to sexual intercourse.
In fact, some women must have their hymen surgically removed before having their first baby because their hymen was so flexible and so strong that it didn't break even after having intercourse many times.
So it is safe to say that it's a myth and the hymen is not the marker for virginity?
Myth busted! The second myth that we will be embarking on today is whether men have orgasms more frequently than women.
To see if it is true, we have to start for what the orgasm is.
The orgasm is the sudden discharge of accumulated sexual excitement during the sexual relationship cycle.
The process is divided in 4 stages. First occurs the excitement, then occurs the plateaus, then the orgasm, and for the final we have the resolution.
Well, what are the 4 stages? Let's start by the first one, excitement. It is the initial sexual stimuli where blood pressure and heart rate increase dramatically.
Then we continue with the plateaus. It is the urethral sphincter contracts that mix the urine from semen. And then the muscles at the base of the penis begin to do a steady rhythmic contraction.
So, what is the orgasm? Well, it is the peak of sexual pleasure during intercourse. Each ejection is associated with a discharge or a wave of sexual pleasure that is mainly felt in the penis and in the loins. Other sensations may be felt in the lower spine or the lower back, but it is very uncommon.
Now is the resolution. Is when the penis began to decrease in size and being flaccid. The orgasm can be achieved in the refractory period because it was painful for the men.
To have a further understanding of the topic and of our myth, we must understand the systems that are involved in the orgasm process.
Both systems like circulatory system, respiratory system, endocrine system, and reproductive system.
So, how are these systems involved in the orgasm? The main system involved in pleasure and in orgasm is the endocrine system, which produces hormones in your body. The main hormone involved and in charge of producing pleasure is oxytocin, which is the main stimulant for sexual intercourse. Men produce half the amount of oxytocin women produce during sexual intercourse. And of course, for men, testosterone is produced, while in women, estrogen is produced in larger amounts, of course, than the normal amount of estrogen in the body. The circulatory system is involved specifically in the organs in charge of sexual intercourse, which are, of course, the penis, the vagina, and all its parts. Blood, rich in oxygen, must flow to the organs and saturate them completely to achieve maximum pleasure or an orgasm. Women take longer to achieve such a sensation because it takes a lot longer for their sexual reproductive organs to be saturated by blood, which is why women may take longer to achieve orgasm. Nevertheless, this doesn't mean that they don't do it.
Now let's see the following video, which explains how the oxytocin works.
Oxytocin is famous for its effects in the realm of romance. Nicknamed the love hormone, it increases sexual arousal, feelings of love, empathy, and emotional bonding to others. But oxytocin might not be all rainbows and puppy dogs. New research suggests it might have a darker side. Case 1. Oxytocin nasal spray. Previously found to increase empathy in men, new studies have found that memories and feelings associated with your mother are also linked to the spray. Test subjects whose attitudes towards their mothers were anxious or uncomfortable would feel even more negative about them after a shot of oxytocin. In another study, subjects given oxytocin played a game of chance in which their opponent would either win or lose large amounts of money. Compared to a placebo, people given oxytocin felt increased envy when their opponent won, and a disturbing sort of happiness when they lost, as well as increased feelings of gloating. Oxytocin has also been linked to ethnocentrism, increasing xenophobia and prejudice towards outsiders, while strengthening feelings of love and trust towards members of the in-group. Because of these studies, some researchers believe oxytocin enhances the entire spectrum of emotions. Altered versions of the oxytocin receptor gene have even been linked with autism spectrum disorder. A meaningful finding, as a major hallmark of autism is a difficulty in understanding and reciprocating emotions. Oxytocin supplements are being explored as a possible treatment of ASD, with some studies showing increased social behavior and ability to recognize emotions after treatment. So maybe instead of the love hormone, we should call it what it really is: liquid emotion, good or bad.
In conclusion, the woman may have the same probability to have the same amount of orgasm. The only difference is that the men take less time and the woman take longer. At the end, it only depends on the person.
Myth busted.